What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we got another loaded show. I think you're going to like it, and we're also doing another contest. So when you hear the title of this episode, you can shoot me an email at 185milessouth@gmail.com. Let me know at what point in the podcast you heard the quote, and we will enter you into a contest. The winner gets a package from me, so that is cool. Check it out. Please support the podcast by subscribing to it wherever you listen to it. Also, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, if you could please rate it and leave a review, that is awesome. I do not know why, but that stuff matters when it comes to getting traction. Like when people are looking up podcasts, you get found more easily. So please do that. Also, the website, 185milessouth.com, there is a playlist for every episode. So you can click that playlist link and check that out. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, you can go to patreon.com/185milessouth, become a monthly Patreon. There is tons of bonus content, and these are the people that keep this podcast alive. I love the Patreons, dude. They are the true heroes of the world. And let's get on with the show.
"185 Miles South", a hardcore punk rock podcast.
Vocal test karaoke.
All right, first up, it is Tyler from the mighty Inclination. Let's do this. Yeah, I love it. Tyler's got some pipes. And now, I threw my chips on the table last week. But now it's time to bring on Dan Sant to do his thing. So let's do this. Vocal test karaoke.
Is that good enough? I think so.
What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we are talking more hardcore. And help me out. You know him. You love him. He is episode 1. He is the legend, Joe Rivas. What's up, Joe?
Hi, everyone.
Also helping out, the best dressed man on the pod, I believe he was episode 6, might have been episode 8, but you know
Let's
him, you
just
loved
say
him
7,
too.
then.
You were going to say 7? Okay.
I would say let's just say 7. I don't know what the fuck.
Oh, well, check it out, man. It's a badge of pride. And you heard him already. It's Dan Sant. What's up, Dan?
Hello.
Also, it is the future episode 200. It is Ben Merlis, a.k.a. Ben Edge, a.k.a. Bedge. What's up, Ben? And how do you feel about that? You're getting your own number, man.
I like it. I'm going to hold you to it. And
Yeah.
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Oh, no. It's definitely happening.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Dan. That was his idea. So we're committed. Episode 200, Bedge. What's up?
I thought it was 999.
Oh. How do you feel
We
about
just
that,
talk
Ben?
about the band 999 instead of myself.
Joe's bumping you back. No, you're gonna.
Homicide is such a track, though.
So I've wanted to talk about this for a long time, and we've put it off. And it is my disdain for the format of the 10-inch. Like, it's never made sense to me. And I guess part of the reason was like, okay, so 7 inches used to be really cheap to make, and LPs were like kind of expensive. But ironically, like, and you would think like, oh, what if I want to do a record that's like longer than a 7-inch, but it's not enough material for an LP, like chuck it on a 10-inch, you know? But a 10-inch was actually more expensive to make than a 12-inch. So it made no sense. And it doesn't fit in the record collection well. So it's just totally bogus. And then so I wanted to open this up more to ask you guys if you have other formats you don't like. Like I also, maybe this is just going to be an airing of grievances, because like it was funny when like I thought it was funny when like the tape gained popularity again, like 5 years ago. And it's like, like I grew up with tapes. Like that was a shitty format. Like CDs were way more rad than a tape, you know, and to see a tape resurgence was just kind of weird. Although I will say that like the cool thing about the tape is they're cheap to make and you can do low runs. So respect on that, because I like to have a physical format. So like that's cool, but like tape's not that cool, but cooler than the 10-inch. Daniel, how do you feel about this?
Well, you were discounting the fact that there is a glorious band out of San Diego called Northern Towns that put out a stellar 10-inch called Good as Gold. Check it out. But yeah, I do agree that when you are lining up all your records in a Expedit, which I would say 95% of the record listening people right now all have Expedits to put their records in. The 10-inch, it's awkwardly in there in between, especially if you're trying to go somewhat alphabetical. So you're not just shoving all your 10 inches in one area.
Whoa,
you know?
You're putting your 10 inches in with the 12 inches? You're a psychopath.
I am.
Oh my God.
Because I like the alphabetical nature of my record collection. So the 10 inches are in there. Kasabian, Kasabian is a post Britpop band from Leicester, England. They've got some bangers. You may know them, you may not, but they only put out 10 inches. Their entire discography is on 10 inches.
Wow.
So the K section of my record collection, which has a lot of Kasabian records, is like this brick of 10 inches, and it is very unsettling.
That's hilarious. I have mine on the front end. They come before the numbers, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, I go 10-inch, then numbers, and then A.
You just scowl at the 10 inches.
It's a shameful little section, but
it's got your Warzone Cause for Alarm split.
I know. And anyone out there, because
which you love.
Yes, but they repress it on 12-inch, and I need to get that. And I'll trade on my 10-inch original version for a repress on the 12-inch. So also, you know, it's got Humanity is the Devil, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
One of the best ever.
Yeah, also, it's the version of Terra Lois Lola that I have. I got the Reflections version, which is on a 10-inch.
Interesting. The genre that I would say that I with one hand, I'll somewhat like, but for the most part, it's a fucking pain as well, is picture discs. Picture discs are generally a format that I think, fuck off. Just give us a great layout.
Well, how about 2 of my 10 inches are Ignite picture discs?
Yeah, of course. So I've got a friend who also hates picture discs. And shout out Jeff Jock. He hates picture discs. He hates 10 inches. There's a band that he really, really likes that have a 10-inch picture disc that I sent him a picture from the Amoeba wall, and he's like, fucking kill me. I don't want that anywhere near my collection. Even if it's a glaring like hole in the discography, he's like, I'm not fucking buying that. It goes against everything I believe in.
I have two other 10 inches that I absolutely love that I guarantee are in neither of your collections. 25 to Life, Keeping It Real, and also 25 to Life, Strength Through Unity, both on 10-inch. But I got to have them. And I have the Northern Towns. Respect, Daniel.
Thank you.
Clash, Black Market Clash. That's a 10.
Yeah. Well, originally, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the Verbal Assault Exit is on 10.
Oh, yeah. The only Verbal Assault record I don't own. And not because it's a 10-inch. I just haven't come across it.
And the Kid Dynamite 88 Fingers Louis split is a 10-inch.
Yeah, I never bought that.
I have the CD.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit, Ben, because I touched on like, I thought it was weird when tapes got like all that hype because like growing up with tapes, like CDs are way better. You are a man with many CDs. Can you like?
Yeah, I never gave up on CDs. I never gave up on them. So I don't think that they're dumb. I don't think it's a dumb format. So I didn't come here to talk about them. But I think CDs are great. They sound great to me. To my ears, they sound great. I don't know. Maybe my ears are different. But and they're convenient as well. And then I love how you can have like a band's entire discography if they made more than 40 minutes of music, all fit on a CD. You can fit 80 minutes. People abuse it, especially rap groups, and they'll like make an album that's 80 minutes long. Like you don't have to fill the whole thing up. Like there's no rule that you have to fill the whole thing up. So, I'm a big CD guy, but I wanted to talk about are you guys familiar with this format? The 1-inch record?
Well, it's like a grindcore power violence like thing, right? They did all like the 3-inch records and a 2. Oh, are you talking about the new record store day shit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beastie Boys Sabotage just came out on 3-inch.
Yeah, and there was a Bad Religion that came out too, and I was like, God damn it. But no, boycotting that shit.
Cope Say, Napalm Death, Ultra Thrash Noise, Cranium Meltdown, 1-inch split EP. Each song by each band is 1 second long. I just don't know how, like, I just want to see that record get played on a record player. I don't want to own it. I don't care. I just want to see it get played. Maybe someone did a YouTube of it. I should look that up. But there are like 2-inch records, every like number you can think of, 8-inch records, 9-inch records, 3.5-inch records. But this is my dumb format of choice. 8-track tapes. And I grew up after 8 tracks were pretty much dead. So I don't have memories of them being terrible. And I know they are terrible. Like, everyone hated those things because there were 4 sides, and so a cassette has 2 sides, an 8-track has 4, so they'd have to manipulate the track list to get roughly even time on all 4 of the. I don't know if they called them sides or programs or whatever. It sucks, but there are punk 8-track tapes, and I looked up what they are. Dude, check this out. Okay, so like 8-tracks were big in the 70s. So there are a lot of 70s punk records that were on major labels that made it to 8-track, like Sex Pistols and Clash, whatever. But then you have a G.G. Allen 8-track that came out just last year called It's Not the Money, It's the Mission. Anti-Scene, some band called Department of Justice, a hardcore band. They put out their 2017 demo on 8-track. Remember the New Breed tape? So it was like this cassette comp. It was all New York hardcore bands from 1989. In 2017, they reissued it on 8-track. And then 76% Uncertain put out an 8-track in 1990. And someone bootlegged Misfits Walk Among Us on 8-track.
That's all just kind of fun, though. That's not as like lame as like the record store day 1-inch record, which is a full like marketing bullshit thing.
Yeah, I only have a few more on the list. So the Fucked Up Hidden World 2006. What's up, Damien? Return my email. Out Cold. They're from Boston or Massachusetts. They put out the Hate Tracks 8-track in 1994. Drop Dead put out the 8-track Collectors Are Pretentious Assholes in 1995, obvious reference to Poison Idea. And then Violent Children, which is the Ray Cappo pre-Youth of Today band, put out an 8-track in 1988. And this is actually the most complete discography that exists for this band because it contains interviews with the band as well as music. So like if you wanted everything ever by Violent Children, you'd have to buy this 8-track. And then there's
go ahead.
Oh, there's one more. This band, No Milk on Tuesday. They were on the Connecticut Fun Comp, which is the first thing Youth of Today appears on is this comp. So they're like another Connecticut band. I'm assuming the Violent Children, who's from Connecticut, there's a connection there. But they put out an 8-track in 1991, and the on Discogs it says, quote, a stereo 8-track version of the 1987 cassette LP featuring extra live material available nowhere else. The live tracks were recorded at the band's final performance, New York, sometime in January 1987. Approximately 10 copies of this edition were actually sold. So if you're one of the lucky 10 people who have that, cool.
Yeah, the 10-inch is still worse, though, because at least the 8-track gave us the classic Stone Age line. The fucking machine scarfed my tape. Big shit, man. Put in another.
Good point.
Yeah, 10-inch. Still the loser. Joe, do you have any opinion on this, or are we just out of our mind?
8-tracks suck, but I did grow up with them. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, so my dad had an 8-track player in his VW bus, and we listened to Frank Zappa driving around the bus all the time. So that was, I got good memories of them, but they definitely sounded like shit compared to like even listen to AM radio sounded better.
But that was the glory, right? Like the 8-track is in your car, and so it just smashed by the cassette tape.
Yeah, but yeah, and then the cassettes they sounded better than the 8-tracks
and they're smaller,
and they were smaller, yeah,
and have more like
right, and they're only two like Ben said, there's two sides. But yeah, the 10-inch is an oddity. I have only two 10-inch records, a Dickies Stukas Over Disneyland, and I can't even remember what the other one is. That's how unforgettable.
Do you sort them in with your records, or are they at the front?
I don't have bins like you guys because I don't have a lot of records, so they're sorted in with. But all my records are like that, except the 7-inches are separate. So, and I was going to ask Daniel. So, if your 10-inches are in with your 12s, are the 7-inches in there as well?
No.
Why not?
Because that's a bridge too far.
Yeah, and the 7-inches, they don't have the shit written on the spine, right? At least the 10-inch has it on the spine.
Some do.
A double 7-inch might.
Yeah, I don't know if you're reading the side of a 7-inch, but yeah, I don't know, dude. 10 inches. There's a lot of good shit that came out, but it's just too. I don't like it in my record collection. Sorry, like I really, really want the Gulch 10-inch. I can't wait till they press it on 12-inch, which hopefully they do eventually. Then I'll buy it, but I don't know. Daniel, you got anything else on this?
Die cut records can be a real fucking pain as well.
What is that?
Like the special shaped ones that they come like a picture disc, but they're like more die cut. Do you know what I mean? Like they're really cool to look at, but after a while in your collection, they become a fucking pain because they've got that like harder PVC container, and there'll be a sharp side that pokes through, and then like I have the Protect Your Neck from Get On Down, which is a die cut Wu-Tang W, and it's great, but yeah, there's a sharp side and it's coming right out the case, and it's annoying.
Yeah, what's interesting? This ties in nicely to the pod. Is prior to Mystic Records getting into the punk thing, they were kind of exploiting that lane. Like they had lots of shaped records. In fact, one of the coolest 7-inches I have is by a band called the Sharks. And I'll post a picture of it, but it's a die cut record that's basically 3 shark fins. And the way it sits into the 7-inch cover, or actually I think it's in like maybe a 10-inch cover or something. Like they cut the front cover down enough so it's like the ocean and the fin is poking up out of it. It's pretty
now
rad.
that's cool because it still has the exterior
Yeah.
thing holding it in place. Plus, it totally gives you the vibes of Spinal Tap Shark Sandwich, aka Shit Sandwich, the review.
Yeah. But there's some lame ones too. Like there's one that's shaped like a heart. There's a Christmas one shaped like a Christmas tree. There's this one band where it's kind of cool. The record's a square, and it even says like "Beware." It's a square on the front. That's one that I don't have.
There's lots of stuff that comes out of Southern California that are like that because Erica Records were very. That was a specialty of Erica Records to do the die cut records, you know. So that's a thing like that. It is a thing, but it's just annoying in your collection. Even though it's cool to look at individually.
Right. And I think a couple of those that I have, like, they didn't even try to put it in like the polyurethane, like the picture disc thing. Like they're just literally in like Ziploc bags. It's like, come on, man. I don't know. I highly doubt that was the original. You know, but yeah.
Okay,
I don't know.
Daniel, where do the flexi discs go?
Oh.
Because flexies are usually 7 inches, so they go in with the 7 inches. But I usually try and put a piece of cardboard behind them.
Yeah.
You know, like the Joy Division Cocamino one or the Smiths London. Like, put those flexies with a cut out piece of cardboard behind it to keep them nice and safe.
Yeah, Flexies just straight up get signed to roadside records. Like they don't even get acknowledged from me. I think the only one I still have is I have a funeral oration one, but like I just tucked it in with the funeral oration 7-inch, so like that's where it lives in my collection.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
I'm against that. I'm not even. I don't really have a strong opinion about 10 inches, but flexies I'm against. I mean, because they're gonna fucking warp. I mean, they're gonna bend and then they'll be reused.
That's why you give them that cardboard backbone, Ben.
I know, but still, just make that shit on a 7-inch.
I mean, the only cool thing about them is like the way that sometimes they used to come in like a fanzine, where they could like put it in like it's a centerfold.
Yeah.
You know? And it rips out, and then it's like, okay, if for what it is a cool idea. But yeah, it's hard to go into a
well, it's usually just for promo purposes only, you know, 100%. Back in the day.
100%. Yeah, like I'm not even really acknowledging it as a format.
But the Chisel just put out a flexi to go with that Oi graffiti book, Urban Styles or something. So the flexi is back.
Yeah, I think that Bert put out some flexis last year too.
The Dad Brains is blown.
Well, yeah, then there's that.
Well, Zach, you need to flexi your head.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What? How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
How do you do, fellow kids?
In this segment, we try to prove that we're not dinosaurs and choose a newer-ish album that we like and talk about it. All right, we're going to talk the Coolside Exploration of Self 7-inch. Came out on Indecision Records in the year 2019. And Dan, what do you think about this one?
I really, really love this record. To pull back the curtain a little bit, I suggested this one. And because I feel like this came out and just did not get the recognition that it deserves, because it's a fucking killer hardcore record. If we think about it this way, it's very hard to always describe a band's sound, and we always do it through a term of comparison to help paint the picture for anyone listening that may not have listened to this. But Count Me Out is like post Chain of Strength. Do you know what I mean? And like, this is post Count Me Out in a way. Like, This is post Count Me Out and post Stop and Think, where Stop and Think take a lot from the war zones and the breakdowns and things like that. And Count Me Out takes a lot from the chain, but does it in a very hard melodic way. I feel this band incorporates both of those 2000 era bands or post that and does this kind of a sound where it is very urgent, really bright sounding, hard as fuck youth crew with, if the music was played without the groove and the way that it's played, some of the breakdowns could sound a little beatdownish, a little, hard mosh, but the way that they're played with such a groove, they go to that post youth crew melodic fucking awesome two-step in parts. I really love this record, and I love so many things about the vocals too. I love that part where he goes 2, 3, 4 and then comes back in with what he's singing.
Yeah, it's a trope that never gets old.
Never.
It goes never get old. 2, 3, 4's fucking great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love, one of the things I like about this, they hit on two things, and Daniel, I think you did a good job of describing it, but they hit the groove really well, and they do breakdowns that are more up-tempo than I kind of enjoyed listening to, but when I hear them here, I'm just like, this band probably brings it live, and it kind of it makes for an entertaining listen, even though I kind of like harder breakdowns. They do a lot of, sometimes they milk a riff in a really tasteful way that I respect. They're hanging on to this shit.
Yeah,
I kind of like it.
Track 3.
Yeah, on track 3. And I can't think of a hardcore comparison to that, but I will say Iron Maiden is the band that does that the best. They kind of rock a riff just as long as you can take it, but keep it entertaining. And that's kind of the vibe I got off this. Now, talking about the melodic stuff, you saying you get some Count Me Out vibes on this, I 100% agree. A couple of the tracks on here, they do the melodic chord progressions really well, but what keeps it cool, in my opinion, is they don't go octave core. If they would have gone all octaved out on some of that stuff, they would have lost me. Count Me Out and certain bands can do it and nail it and have it sound great, but the bands that rely on octaves and don't do it well, it's straight to the garbage heap of history.
What about Atari?
For me, Atari is so campy because they're doing scissor beat the whole time with an octave the entire time. It's just they turned up the ridiculousness to 11 that I almost like it because it's so terrible. I don't know. Yeah, I mean it's cool. I'm only talking about the first 7-inch. That's the only one that I really got into, and the Growing Stronger track. But this is so rad.
This kid's vocals do have a very good Jason from Count Me Out is a good thing to compare it to, because he has that clarity of voice, but with really good desperation and aggression mixed in. It's a fucking killer record.
He's got a great voice and he's got great vocal cadence. He's awesome. He's awesome.
Funny. The very first thing in my notes is the vocals kind of remind me of Count Me Out. So definitely, I think the music sometimes does as well, and it's less specifically rooted in Youth Crew or Chain of Strength than Count Me Out is.
Yeah,
just
that's exactly. Why I said they're a post Count Me Out band, whereas Count Me Out's a post Chain band. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, exactly.
It's that domino rally we talked about.
But it's more up tempo than Count Me Out.
Well, that's where I'm saying the Stop and Think stuff comes from, with the two-steppy, very mental stop and think vibes that are going in there as well.
I think that's fair. I think you nailed the mashup.
Yeah, I hear a bunch of Death by Stereo in this, minus Dan Palmer's guitar noodling stuff. There's a whole lot of that stop-start, stuff that they do that nobody else has been doing. So
yeah, I can see that in the tempo changes, perhaps.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean.
Yeah, definitely has a lot more of the Maiden that Zach just referenced.
Right, exactly.
Fueling through it.
This band sort of makes me think of what happened in the mid 2000s when Sound and Fury just got started and Sync with Cali Fest was happening. And you had bands like Verse and Go It Alone and Blue Monday springing up. It's like standard down the middle hardcore made by people who most likely grew up on Youth Crew, but they're not slaves to the genre. And I mean, that one of these songs made me I imagine people doing jumping jacks in a pit. That song Existence, there's a big instrumental section of it. And
I think that the bands you're referring to right there, that's a fair comparison, because that's kind of like that lane of the mid 2000s melodic hardcore. But again, like, these guys are hanging back and not doing the octave stuff. And it is a little more up tempo and bouncy, where it's not like that totally serious, safe-ish sound. I know we don't want to say that word too much, but like, I don't know. I've always thought like some of those bands, like, melodic straight edge bands with good recordings, like, if your mom like discovered you listening to it when you're 16, she'd be like, oh, Johnny, he's still a good boy. And I just don't know. I like a little bit more of a punk. I want it either to be edgier with punk or edgier with like hardness. And I think this band does it with like keeping things interesting, keeping it up tempo, and great vocals.
I noticed on the Spotify version of this record, there is either one or two extra songs that are not on the 7-inch, and it makes me think like this is the 2021 version of the CD has extra tracks that didn't fit on the record. Now it's the Spotify has extra tracks that didn't fit on the record. And the other thing I noticed is there's no credits. Well, at least on Discogs, there's no credits for like who the people in the band are, and I don't even know where they're from. Do you know where they're from, Zach?
I want to say they're from like, God,
where's the Air Force Base?
Coming from someone that always claims my hometown, like, I feel bad not knowing where someone's from, because I think they're from either like Lancaster or Palmdale.
That's where they're from, Lancaster, I think.
Oh, wow.
It's like one of those. So but if you're from Lancaster and like someone says you're from Palmdale, you're probably pissed,
right? But
and vice versa.
For those of you not, for people who are not from Southern California, that's the Antelope Valley, and that there is not a strong tradition of hardcore punk or music in general coming out of the Antelope Valley. Maybe I want to say
absolutely wrong, but okay.
I was about to say
Joe, Smack Band. Come on.
I was about to say either Frank Zappa or Captain Beefheart or both are from the Antelope Valley.
Yes,
Zappa's from San Diego.
Okay, so then it's the other one. But tell me, school me on the punk thing with the Antelope Valley, because I know what's his name, John Scheimer's from the Antelope Valley, right? And he used to do shows under Numbskull out there.
Yep.
Okay, so what are some of the bands that came from there?
Face to Face.
They're from Victor.
They're from Victorville.
Victorville,
bruh.
Yeah, Victorville, which is in the Antelope Valley.
It is? Okay,
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought Palmdale and Lancaster.
Or might as well fucking be.
Oh, now you're making the Antelope Valley enemies.
What's the 1.5 between Antelope Valley and Victorville?
That's my mom's house. Pinion Hills in Phelan, yeah.
Well, right on.
Well, I was born in Lancaster, so there you go. That's all you need.
All right.
Yeah, episode
The
1.
legend.
The legend Joe Rivas hails from Lancaster before making South Oxnard his home. All right, this record rules. Everyone get it. Indecisionrecords.com. Handle business.
I just wanted to say one thing. The intro is a fucking. I was like, oh man, is this Danzig? Because it's super eerie Vaughn. Anyway, that's all.
All righty, grab that shit.
Side A versus Side B.
All right, side A versus side B for Descendents. Milo Goes to College. Daniel, let's go to you.
Well, we have done many side A, side Bs in the past. And I'll tell you this, there is not one that is as outweighed as this record. It is side B by a bajillion miles. I mean, for the simple fact you get Hope going next into Bike Age, like that alone is just Age of Quarrels, the first half, meaning visually Mushroom Clouds side A. But then you've got Kabuki Girl, you've got, I mean, this is not taken away. Side A is a hell of a banger when it comes to any other records out there. It's just side B of Milo Goes to College is, I guarantee if I pulled my record out right now, side A would look decent and side B would be like, this has been played 1 trillion times more than side A, you know, especially when you don't flip records and you're a lazy fuck like me. But I have to just say, like, side B, like, I don't know what you guys are thinking. Obviously, My Age is so good. I'm Not a Loser, so good. But you've got Suburban Home starting out side B. Statue of Liberty, oh my God, what an amazing song. Kabuki Girl, Zach's favorite song that has somewhat problematic lyrics. Marriage. I never knew I wanted to get married until the Descendents told me I wanted to. Hope, Bike Age, and then Gene is Dead. It's damn near a perfect side of a record ever. Like one of the most perfect sides of any LP ever. So side B.
Yeah, there was 3 records that I came up with this idea for side A versus side B on, and this was one of them. You know, and it might have been like the most egregious of them all. You know, it's this one. It's My War. And then it's the first Dillinger 4 LP, because like these are records where it's so heavily weighted, like the side I listen to. I'm going with Daniel. I'm side B all day. But listening to it again, I mean, side A is so good. And it's funny that you think that Statue of Liberty is a standout, Daniel, because
I don't think it's a standout. I'd say it's a great song, but how can it be a standout when Hope and Bike Age are on that side as well?
No. You brought it up, so like I think it's the worst song on the record. But I mean, whatever. Anyway,
it's the worst song on the record on a near perfect Descendents record.
Exactly, but it's like, what is this? It's like, I don't know. It seems like it would be a topic for like a Joe Rogan podcast or something. Like, oh, Statue of Liberty, why'd they give it to us, man? Like, because mushrooms, man. I don't know. But side A has some big moments I was listening to today. Catalina, perfect mid-tempo song. Like that tempo on the verses and like the chorus, it's like, that is a perfect mid-tempo down-strumming song. It is so good. And the one thing that stood out to me the most is the I'm Not a Punk song. This sounds more like what Bad Religion would do on Suffer than anything off How Could Hell Be Any Worse. Like that riff is Bad Religion Suffer. Like, yeah, it's wild. When I was
interesting. Sorry, Zach. I just want to say it's interesting that you say the Statue of Liberty is such a dumb song, but I Want to Be a Bear and M16, those are really dumb songs as well.
Right, but that's like dumb for the point of being dumb. Where like Statue of Liberty is like, man, did you ever think about that thing, man? Maybe that's like too much of a harkening back to my stoner days. Like where that one just like, I don't know. It just resonates with me in a terrible way.
Maybe you spent too many hazy moments with this side of the record where that is something you were considering.
I know. It's like I kept thinking about why they did give it to us, that like I didn't listen to Kabuki Girl. You know, like what the fuck? The other thing I wanted to say that I think is interesting is the Gene is Dead song. Like that whole like, now you're gone and I'm alone. I was thinking about it and it was like, I'm not a big Nirvana fan, and you know, so this might be way off, but like that song mashed up with the Wipers, like kind of is what I think Nirvana sounds like, you know? And I just thought that was another weird thing I plucked from this record. Anyway, that's all I got. Side B. Joe, let's go to you.
Wow. Um, you know, uh, yeah, I can't go against Hope. Like I want to just go side A because to be a dissenter, but you can't touch Hope. That song is so freaking beautiful. But I'm gonna shower love on I Want to Be a Bear because I fucking love that song too. It's so fucking ridiculously fun.
Well, Zach and I already are if we roll to the Castro.
Yeah. Oh, right.
That's right.
That kind of bear.
Respect.
Yeah. And I do love Catalina, although I love the live version on the 2+1.
Right, the live +1, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the live +1. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm going side B too. So side B wins. Even Ben doesn't need to.
And doesn't even need to talk.
Hope is a great song. Maybe the second best song on the record, but Bike Age, good God, man, it's the best song. And it's Bike Age is better than the fucking Beatles. You know, like it's one of those songs that I listen to and I get upset that like a lot of this music never got the recognition it deserves on like the large scale. Now, everyone that's listening to this podcast, like probably has a soft spot for the Descendents. Like we all love them, or you at least respect them and understand what's up. But like the fact that music critics and like the mass population doesn't have a song like Bike Age like in their repertoire of like classic songs is so offensive. And maybe that's like why we love this music so much, right? Like it's always going to be the Secret Handshake. You know, it's always going to be like something for us. And it's why, like, you know, they always talk about, oh, back in 81, you know, you'd see another punk and you'd make friends. It's like, some things never change. You know, like there's certain bands where it's like you can bond over like whether it's 2021 or whether it's 2080. You know, I think that people that love a song like Bike Age are always going to like have a little connection with each other. And let's shoot it to Ben.
That's funny that you talked about the Beatles because I wrote in the 1.5 piece about this record specifically and about the song Hope specifically. And by the way, side B wins because it has Hope and Bike Age. So we're all on the same page as far as that's concerned. But I wrote, during their initial run, they proved that songs as timeless and perfect as anything by the Beatles or the Beach Boys could be forged within such a sonically explosive music format as 1.5. So I'm basically saying the Descendents are at least as good as the Beatles or the Beach Boys. And it's like, of course they fucking are. Like, we know that. We're punk rockers. We know what this shit is all about. But that's funny. It's like this band kind of is getting their flowers like gradually over the course of several decades. You know, they're able to play really big fests now and high up on the bill. But I understand, like, they're not like mainstream top 40 the way the Beach Boys and the Beatles were.
Right, they're headlining Punk Rock Bowling, not headlining Coachella.
Right.
Yeah, but we don't want them at Coachella.
Yeah, we're good with that.
We want them.
I don't care at this point. Like, there's such a disconnect of this like level of punk and me that I don't give a fuck. There's no difference between like, oh, this fest or the next fest, like of that level. You know, like, yeah, I want them to headline Coachella. Why not?
Yeah. But Milo actually wrote Hope. And Bill Stevenson wrote Bike Age. So, and it was a real group effort, though. If you look at the writing credit, it's all four members of the band, pretty evenly split, which is really cool that a band can do that and have every song pretty much be great. Like that's really rare, you know. Usually, it's one or two people in the band who are writing everything. Or
just think of the Bike Age, like the way the song is formatted, like it's already a perfect song, and then they put that intro on there. Do you know what I mean? Like they've already got a perfect melodic punk song that is telling an absolute heartbreaking story, but then, through writing it, then they do the do like intro, and it stops running out of I'm chef's kissing my brains out over here. Like a million chef's kisses are being done right now. And it's that kind of songwriting that Ben is talking about. It's not replicated often,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
Like-
a beautiful song, like, Beatles-esque in that way, but they still know it's time to slam. So they know how to kick into a song.
They're like maybe 4 or 5 bands in the punk universe where they're so good it's not fair. And I would say Descendents, this era of Descendents, early Misfits pre-Earth AD. Earth AD is good too, but before Earth AD, the Misfits are so good it's not fair. Or late 70s, early 80s Bad Brains. And then I would also put TSOL and Adolescence in there. But like...
have you ever heard of Minor Threat? I left them off my straight edge list.
That goes without... But that goes without saying, right? I mean,
so does the Descendants. I mean, all the bands you just mentioned go without saying.
This is a vintage.
It doesn't make any sense
for a super niche podcast. if anyone's listening to this, they know.
Well, as well they should. Although a certain someone didn't know a certain lyric for a certain song, but I don't know if I can say that because I don't know if it's going to go out in the correct order of. But don't never assume people know anything in the 21st, the second decade of the 21st century, or whatever, third decade.
Yeah, well, trivia is different when you're on the spot.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. So this is a blowout for side B, but this record rules. Everyone knows it, but it was fun to talk about it, and it probably should have been the first record we ever did on side A, side B. But I'm glad we got to it. And we did My War, and we'll have to do Dillinger 4 Midwestern songs at some point to see if you guys think that I'm wrong, like you normally do.
Questions and answers. Introducing first, the challenger, fighting out of the hard corner. From Brooklyn, New York, he's got nothing to hide and a title to gain. It's Anthony Poppin' Many Suckers Pappalardo. And his opponent, fighting out of the core corner, from parts unknown, weight unknown. Reason he didn't pick Minor Threat in the Straight Edge Super 7, unknown. It is the reigning, defending, undisputed 185 Miles South trivia champion of the world, Daniel, these questions are too easy, Sant!
All right, we're going to send the first question off to Anthony Pappalardo. Now, Pops, before joining Sick of It All, Craig Satari played in this band with hits such as Spirit of Youth and Not Afraid.
Straight ahead.
A point to Pops. All right, Daniel. Pressure's on to even it out, but I think this is in your wheelhouse. Okay, the debut LP, Damned, 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 by The Damned, features 2 out of 4 members wearing sunglasses. Now, if you found yourself in St. Augustine, Florida, and were in need of a new pair of shades, you might find what you need at Shark Shade Sunglasses on George Street. Now, what is the suite number?
230.
Incorrect. It's 7. But let's go on to your real question. Dan. Sorry. I cracked myself up. This band, named after a type of video game console, put out a 7-inch on Teamwork Records in 1997. Arguably, they are the founders of Octave Core.
Atari.
A point to Daniel. Right on. Okay. Pops, to you. In 1985, the singer of The Grimm worked at this gas station.
Oh, that's it?
That was the question you feared and you got it, but I'm just fucking around.
All right.
Okay. This member of Citizens Arrest had a podcast with Amy Mann.
I have no fuck. I only know like one dude, like Daryl, whatever the fuck his name is.
Ben. That was a Ben question. So
I think I might be able to steal.
yeah, we're going to Daniel for the possible steal.
Ted Leo.
A steal from the champ.
Oof.
1 point to Daniel. Yeah, Ben question, and someone got it. So right on. Okay, Dan, we go to you for your second question. This band was named after a famous phrase in the 1983 movie The Outsiders. They did a 7-inch and a full length on Indecision Records.
Stay Gold.
Point to the champ. Okay, let's pass it back over to Pops. Okay, Warzone had a song called Under 18. On their third LP, they thanked members of this band who had the hit song 18 in Life.
Oh, Skid Row.
A point to Pops. All right, we rolling in this one. Daniel, the singer of this band had a rat tail in the 1991 In Effect video.
The singer of the band, so I'm not naming the actual singer. So I'm
Correct.
naming the band. Ooh, Sick of It All.
A point to Daniel. Right on. Daniel, you pitching a shutout? You are. Holy cow. All right, Pops.
Jinx me. Don't jinx me.
I'm sorry, bud. Okay. On the cover of the Floor Punch Division I Champ 7-inch, Mark Porter is wearing a basketball jersey of this college.
Middlesex. I don't know. No, Princeton. I have fucking no clue. Some bullshit in New Jersey.
That was kind of hard, I guess. Daniel, we'll shoot it to you for the possible steal.
I'm gonna guess because now my mind I instantly thought it was this, and then when he's been answering, it makes me doubt it. But I'm gonna say Georgetown.
Incorrect. North Carolina.
Oh, he's a Jordan. Dean
I think
Smith.
I've seen him wearing North Carolina and UCLA.
Yeah, somewhere he's not from. Whatever, doesn't matter.
That was a tough question, though.
That was tough. That was my fault.
I empathize.
Okay, that was my fault. All right, Dan, we go to you. True or false? The exploited song "Punk's Not Dead" spells punks Punx.
False.
A point to Daniel. All right, here we go. Pops, you're round 5. Which came first? The Hatebreed LP "Satisfaction is the Death of Desire" or the national rollout of the Gordita at Taco Bell?
I'll go with always innovative Hatebreed.
It is a point to Pops. Hatebreed in
Yes.
1997, and the Gordita comes out in 1998. How about that? All right, Daniel. Cockspur Shock Troops has 10 songs. How many of those songs start with the letter W?
Oh God. All right. Well then, I'm gonna. I got 1, 2, 3. Watch your back for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it, wrong button.
I can't take this pressure. Too many things I'm doing great, too much in it, too many things, everything that
I can only think of 4.
Correct answer, Daniel. 1 point to you. Nailed it, dude. You know, serving it up in your wheelhouse.
Where are they now? Working. Watch your back, and we're coming back.
American hero, Daniel Sant.
But don't ask me to do side B because I never listened to side B.
All right, Pops, we're going to you. This is round 6. On the chorus-ish part of the Uniform Choice song "No Thanks," singer Pat Dubar assures you that it is okay not to do what?
Drink.
A point to Pops. And we go to Daniel.
Echo. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Best production ever.
I love it. All right, Dan, here we go. Year number 6. On the debut LP, "A Way of Life, Skinhead Anthems" by The Last Resort, they have song titles that refer to A, skinheads, B, violence, C, boots, D, all of the above.
Well, they definitely have skinheads and they definitely have violence. So I assume boots too. So all of the above.
A point to Daniel. Holy cow, dude. Killing it. All right. The final round. Go to Pops. Tony Erba sang for this band before doing Golden Sword. Tony Erba sang for this band before doing Gordon Soley Motherfuckers and Nine Shocks Terror. They put out a 7-inch on Conversion Records in 1990.
That would be Face Value.
A point to Pops. And we go to Dan for his 7th and final question. This Dutch band had 2 self-titled LPs and put out an LP in 1984 called Communion.
Funeral Oration.
A point to Daniel. Yeah, man. And I'm one of their only fans. So what's
and
up?
I only know that from this pod.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had 2 self-titled LPs.
They do. A fun fact about Funeral Oration, or maybe unfun. We would have to shoot it to Posy Chris. But okay, Ben, let's go to you for the totals.
We have Anthony Pappalardo with 5 points and reigning champion Daniel Sant with 8 points. Daniel remains champion.
All right. We'll take a bow, Daniel.
I just did, and I just slightly hit the mic with my head. I would say this, Anthony, that 5 would take this down in other rounds in the past.
That is true.
I wish I did a little more research. I should have thumbed through my 7 inches. I would have nailed that 4-punch one, but still wouldn't have put me over the top. So
Daniel,
I'll take it.
That was a fucking submarine question, if you ask me.
Daniel was on a hot one, so I don't know if anyone could have defeated him tonight. He might have even taken out Bedge. You know, who knows? All right. Thanks, guys. All right, one's gotta go. This is a new segment, and it was Pop's idea. So, Pops, lay it out. What are we doing here?
I like that meme. One's got to go, and I thought we could do this for the pod. Now, the idea isn't what's the worst one. This is not a negative summation of all these great records. It's that gun to your head, tough choice, and of 4 epic things, right? So we will continue on. This is just the first one, and it's just 4 things that are pretty much hardcore canon. And you have to come up with a reason why, the tough choice, the bum out of who would you leave out of this? So,
yeah,
Zach, why don't you tell us the first 4 we're going to go through?
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us in this first one. I mean, Pops, you did not take it easy on us. We're breaking down 4 classic straight edge 7-inches, and it is Judge New York Crew 7-inch. It is the side-by-side 7-inch You're Only Young Once, the Chain of Strength True Till Death 7-inch, and the Project X self-titled 7-inch. One has got to go. And Pops, your idea, you got to go first, man.
Sure. The other thing I wanted to say is that tried to keep it in the same genre and relatively the same time frame within a year. So like I said before, all these records are essential. I made this conundrum for myself. And so, after I came up with this little meme that I'm looking at, I said to myself, well, shoot, I actually do have to eliminate one. And so the way I looked at it was what changes, what the trajectory of hardcore, right? What alters it if it doesn't exist, And I'm like, Chain of Strength, you need to have that in there. You need the West Coast represented. Judge New York Crew, Angry People, just iconic, the cover. I'm staring at the cover as I talk about this. And then you got Side by Side, good Lord. Project X, it's a project, right? Like it's a side project. They played a few shows. The impact, as large as it was, not a functioning band. It's a side project. As much as I love it, I'm actually taking Project X out of the mix, not because I don't think that's an amazing record, not because I don't covet that record, not because I don't love those songs, but I think if we're talking how hardcore keeps going, what's inspired by it, and what is sort of music that can live on by itself and live on in the live format. Unfortunately, Project X has to go only because you got the Grudge 7-inch inspired by that. So, right? Like, and Judd, and like, we don't have Judd without Project X, which I think is a great thing. So therefore, Project X got to go.
You're tripping, dude. I listened to Judd 7-inch in the last year, and it is funnier now than it ever was. It is actually like really well done. Grudge, take it or leave it.
Zach, what do you mean the Grudge, the Judd 7-inch? They're actually two. They're two.
Yeah,
No Tolerance for Instruments. And what's the other one called?
I think the other one was the demo 7-inch, though, right? So there's one official 7-inch. There's the demo that got repressed on 7-inch.
Oh, shit. You know more than me.
Hey.
The demos, yeah.
I'm a fan.
Well, I have both 7-inches.
It's really, really well done, and it's hilarious now, like, being able to listen to it from a distance.
Well, I'll share with you privately the SoundCloud link to the unreleased Judd 7-inch that I only have, and we'll talk about it later.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
I cannot wait. Yeah, but, as far as like the songs living on in a live format, Project X is probably the easiest to cover. Like, you listen to bands cover Chain of Strength, it's almost always lame because like they'll do True Till Death too fast, or Bratton just cannot be replicated. So, but yeah, Ben, let's take this to you before I go.
This one's actually easy for me. I like all these records, but I only love 3 of them. I love Judge New York Crew. I love Side by Side. I love Chain of Strength, True Till Death. Project X is cool. I like the idea of it. But it's not close to my heart. I mean, Straight Edge Revenge is a fun, like half joking song. And, the rest of the songs, there are no duds on it. I mean, Cross Me is 3 seconds long, but it's a good 3 seconds. And if you think about it, Project X is sort of a precursor to Judge New York Crew, because Project X is a side project of all these youth crew guys. And then, which I think was recorded maybe in 87 and came out in 88. It was definitely recorded before the Judge 7-inch. And then Judge is a side project as well. And it's just, it carries more weight with it. Like, there's so much strength to it that it actually turned into a real band, which Project X didn't happen to Project X. And I think it's because there was more depth to Judge New York Crew. And then the two, Side by Side and Chain of Strength were kind of real bands from the get-go. And I don't know. To me, it's Project X is the one that goes. It's clear. Like, I could just break down song by song why I like the first Chain of Strength 7-inch so much, but that would be boring. But take my word for it. It's a really good record and I like it a lot. And Side by Side is like, that's the only thing they ever did. And it's the only record they ever did. They have a demo too, but it's just so awesome. And it's kind of like this freestanding sort of, let's put it this way. It's the best dressed man on the podcast's favorite band ever. So I gotta do it justice by keeping it in the mix here.
Can I interject something real quick just before we forget? I want to say that Where It Ends is one of the weirdest Straight Edge songs ever, and it's incredible. It's so bouncy and strange. And, since we have 2 eliminations for that record, I just want to highlight what a strange ender to that record is and how cool it is.
Yeah, it's almost like an intro, and then they just wrote lyrics over the intro, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably what it is. But I do wonder if Project X would have a little more merit if there was like a full length, right? Like Judge, the first 7-inch is just 2 dudes. but like there's an LP. So it's like Judge is a legit ass band, you know, and thank God there's an LP because Mike Judge is such a great lyricist. You know, it's like he's a driving force, and I'm glad more songs came out of it.
And here's something I've never heard anyone say. Now that I think of it, I've never heard anyone say, "God, if only Project X did a follow-up LP." I've never heard anyone say that.
Right, because they kind of got everything out that you need on the 7-inch. Like it.
Well, they were supposed to do the Edge of Coral, right? That was the joke.
But was that true? Were they actually going to do that?
I mean, they said it in interviews, so I mean, it's fun folklore,
right?
So Dan, out of the three, because we know Side by Side is safe, what's got to go, man?
Well, if you think about it, I think of these records. I'm not concerned about what bands could play live or anything like that, because these are 4 records in your record collection, and one of them has to be lost to the fire when you're running out with them, right? So I think about these as entire items in your hand and in your heart. So iconic artwork on all of them, right? You know, you can see them all with your eyes closed right now without even knowing to look it up or anything. But the Project X cover is so fucking sick. And not only that, you get a fanzine with it if you were lucky enough to get a first press, you know? But I hate to go with the crew, but it's got to go because Side by Side is the best record Revelation Records ever put out. And then we've got 2 records from Schism, and I just couldn't give the nod to the record that is completely serious. I couldn't give the nod to the record that is tongue-in-cheek over the record that is completely serious and is echoing the statements of, you know, it was interesting, Ben brought that up, that this was kind of the precursor to Judge, because, you know, they were joking like that the positive side of the straight edge scene that they were leading at the time needed to be angry and bite back. And then, you know, one more YOT tour in the can, and they came back and was like, fuck that. We need to fucking bite back. Sick of everyone making fun of us because we're straight edge or whatever, you know, especially when lots of the original edge bands had all sold out and moved on and everything. And then here's this flag bearing band going out and just being mocked across the country, as well as celebrated, of course. But, you know, they came back and were angry and wrote this just powerful 7-inch. And then Chain of Strength, there's nothing that quite sounds like it, even though everything tries to sound like it. I think that's the best way of describing what Chain sounds like. It is angry, groovy youth crew that just, often imitated, never duplicated. And Curtis's voice, incredible. Bratton's drumming, incredible. Bass playing, incredible. Like, I fucking love it. It would have been between that and the Project X, but I've got to go with Project X being left behind, unfortunately, even though I love it.
Yeah, and also, like, I think one of the most underrated things about Chain of Strength is they just put in, like, a little bit of tunefulness. Like, there is a little bit of melody there.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
so it's like no one can touch Bratton's drumming. No one can touch Curtis's voice. And also no one can put in that little bit of nuanced melody. Like,
Well, that's what I'm talking about, that groove, Zach. It's that melody and groove.
Sure. But people also, like, they either don't have the melody or they do too much. And it's like they just get it perfect. Like, I would say there's lots of bands that do groove even better than Chain of Strength, right? But like just that little hinge of melody, I don't know. Because like you wouldn't consider Chain of Strength like a melodic band. Like it sounds pretty brutal, right?
Yeah, but I would say there's not many youth crew bands that do groove better than Chain. Do you know what I mean? Like,
except your boys Side by Side on Backfire, like when they kick, you know.
No, I think
It doesn't bounce.
the thing with Chain is that they wrote those songs to be played live. You know, like they specifically set out on a mission of we're going to recreate this live, and we wrote songs that we can comfortably play these songs being maniacs. And I don't think any other band had that mission statement to be like, you're going to get the record, you're going to love it, you're going to be in your room, you're going to punch holes in your wall. And then we specifically wrote them, not easy, that's not the term, right? It's just, we're comfortable enough, like we're locked in enough to play these things so that when we play them live, we can be maniacs. And I think that's really, on one hand, it's really funny to me, and one hand, it's really smart that they had the foresight to think of how it would translate. And that's the magic of that 7-inch to me.
Yeah, and also like I think that translates to a band that comes relatively shortly after them, Strife. Right, it's like the same kind of idea where they're writing songs that sound dope on record, but also like for the live setting.
Mm-hmm. Funny you mentioned that. I thought of them too, and I want to say Carry On did the same thing where they're like, "Oh, we got to write a breakdown so that people go off for this one part of this song." Like they actually thought it with like people in the audience reaction in mind while they're writing the songs.
So I'm gonna take out Project X2, which is kind of a bummer for this first one that we all lump on the same thing. Porcel's probably not harder than the booze that I swill down my throat. Might be harder than the wine coolers he's drinking on the weekend or whatever, and respect for that. But yeah, I mean, this 7-inch rules. I love it. Straight Edge Revenge is a perfect song. Like, I love when hardcore songs take old punk tropes and put them into like the short truncated hardcore format and make them bangers, like the slow to fast. It's like something so simple and so good. Let's sing along on the slow part and then rage on the fast part with another sing along, right? It's almost like the I Saw Your Mommy or institutionalized formula here truncated into a short ass song. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely perfect. But I can't live without New York Crew, Side by Side, or Chain of Strength. So Project X has got to go. If one's got to go.
Here's why that sweeper isn't a diss, because like all these records, they're all rippers, no skippers. The reason why Project X getting canceled isn't a diss is because everyone on that record is on multiple other records that are canon. You know, like this is just a fun little thing. It's not like one person who's part of Project X. If you get them out of the equation, they don't count. All the people involved in this did awesome shit. So therefore, like this is it's a luxury item.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great thing to say. Like all the dudes on this record are MVPs, and like if we had to eliminate all their projects, we would be totally fucked.
Yeah, but I haven't heard any other records that Kid Hard or Slam have done.
Oh, Daniel brings up a good point.
That's true. No, Slam has an awesome alt country record that you should check out. Called Slam. It's called Slam Country. You should check it. But
do you know what though? Before we just end this segment, everybody said something nice about all the other records. What's everyone's favorite part of the Side by Side record?
You're living the lie, dude.
Yeah, you ate your words, drank your words, smoked your words.
I like the cover where there's 3 guys on it, not one. Take that, Don.
I love.
Let's wrap.
The Alex call.
Alex. All right.
You know, son, you're not a kid anymore.
Oh, no. I go to
shows.
Dad, I already know all this stuff.
Well, they don't teach you about everything at shows. Okay, Mr. Smart Bands? So just listen. When boys and girls get a little older, they start getting
interested in punk and hardcore subgenres. Starter kit.
All right, time for another starter kit. We're taking to Dan Sant to talk about the motherland, and it's UK 82. Hit it, Dan.
Okay, so this is a genre that has been getting tapped into a lot in recent, in the recent 5 years of hardcore. Like people have been tapping back into this kind of vibe, but it's a legendary genre for what it is different from everything else in sonically, and what it is different attitude and formation wise, I feel. So, you know, UK82 also was known as UK hardcore, you know. So it's the next genre of punks, or the next generation of punks that have seen the major label crumbling of, and the basically the major label milking of punk, and this is the people on the streets doing their own thing while being at those punk shows back in the day. But this is a rawer, more synthesized, political, and harder sound also. We're going to do UK82, and I am going to do a big differentiation, because I'd love to do this as another starter kit at another time. So like the anarcho punk, like the Subhumans, etc., I'm not including that in the pure UK82 starter pack, just so it's known. And I'm also not including some of the Oi bands that could bleed into this as well. So I'm going with 5 records that are amazing, and 3 of these records are from what would be considered the big 3 of UK82, and then 2 of them we're adding for a bit of rounding out what the sound is, and enabling whoever this kid is that's getting this starter kit to hear that there's a little bit different sounds going on within this genre. So first record I'm going with is going to be Exploited, Punk's Not Dead. Now, this came out in 1981, but it is basically the ground zero of what we would go to know UK82 as, which is a very harder, more distorted, aggressive guitar sound, very much harder drumming, much what would you describe the drumming as of this genre? It's almost like militaristic in a way.
It's somewhere between like the mid-tempo punk and the fast of hardcore. Like,
yeah,
if people are familiar with like the Teen Idol 7-inch, the fast beat that they do on that is very similar to all this UK82 stuff, which is, I mean, it's spoiler alert, but you're gonna have Discharge on here, which break out and everyone says the D beat, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's kind of that, but some of these bands is just a tad bit slower, but it's somewhere between mid-tempo and fast.
And what's interesting is a lot of these UK82 bands, you know, they're taking what punk is, and they are actively trying to make it harder, faster, a little bit more aggressive, but there are influences like Motorhead and stuff like that bleeding in, maybe on a subconscious level, you know, especially with Discharge. So Exploited, Punk's Not Dead, it comes out in 1981. It is literally talking to the fact that the people that were involved in first wave punk, especially the architects of it, were doing it artistically, you know, not necessarily the Clash, but like the Pistols, Malcolm McLaren, etc. And when they felt like it was over, it's punk's dead, you know, like there's nothing new here, there's nothing exciting. Well, when these kids from the working class housing estates and people in dole queues, mile-long dole queues, thanks to Margaret Thatcher waging war on the national industries, so coal mining, steel works, etc. She's trying to privatize all of those, which meant massive layoffs. And then people are coming out of school with no factories to go work in. So they just go on the dole. No future, like that. The Sex Pistols were saying no future, but in a very artsy way. This is like, no, there really is no fucking future. And that's why this music sounds as hard as it does, you know, and as aggressive as it does. So The two songs I'd probably, Punk's Not Dead, and then I'm gonna say Sex and Violence, because it is so catchy and so different from everything else on the record. But SPG is the real banger on the LP. Exploited were a band from Edinburgh, which I was corrected on a few pods ago. Working class people. Watty, the singer, had still has, as much as it recedes, a legendary. In America, we'd call it a mohawk, but in the UK, it's called a Mohican. That haircut. And then they also had Big John on guitar, which may be the first punk who legitimately had a mustache and made it looked cool. Are you all still there?
We're here.
Yeah.
Just letting you shine.
What?
I said we're here, just letting you shine.
Okay. There was so much silence that I was like,
Hey, I did the Ender Strife interview, and now I'm the master with the mute button.
All right. The next one I've got to go with is Discharge. You got to go Discharge, hear nothing, see nothing, say nothing. And this really takes what UK82 really synthesizes down to, is being a strong political questioning and rallying against the government action. And also what UK82 does in a lot of these political circles, especially when you go further into that anarcho-punk stuff that I referenced earlier, is the almost fear of nuclear war and total destruction. Discharge very much touch on that on this LP. But to talk about how this LP has just birthed not only a genre, an entire lifestyle, I feel, DB and crust punk. This is one of the most ground zero. Well, it's the ground zero moment for DB, but it's also quite a ground zero for both crust and grindcore, really. And then there's as many hard punk bands that reference Discharge, but there's just as many like extreme metal acts that will also reference Discharge. This record is full of anti-war themes, and it is just it's really an iconic record. And I'm gonna say the two songs that I would select to be the what shine on this to really synthesize what this LP is all about is Protest and Survive. It's just an epic song, epic lyrics. And what's interesting about Discharge is like the lyrics are so sporadically sang on their songs. There's a lot of negative space on their music that I find very interesting, and then goes further into like doom and things like that later on. And then the other song is The Cries of Help, which kind of touches on what I'm talking about of the fear of total annihilation, because they even have a sample about nuclear bombs and stuff at the end. And that song is fucking great.
If you would have omitted Protest and Survive, I would have taken out a boombox, like Radio Raheem boombox, and moshed all the way 400 miles north to your pad in Oakland and slammed you. So how about that? It's the ultimate circle pit song. Like when that comes on, you're slamming, period.
Yeah, definitely. And, the thing that is really interesting about Discharge and that song in particular is just it synthesizes everything. When I think of what I really think the the purity of punk is that song, like the sound, the message, and the call to action. Do you know what I mean? So
yes. Well said.
So next, I am going to go with the band that possibly does as much for the look of what UK82 is, as well as they do with the sound. And that is GBH, formerly known as Charged GBH. For those that don't know, GBH in England is grievous bodily harm, which is essentially like, say, an aggravated assault. So when you get, and then you get charged with it, so that's why they were charged GBH. But what's interesting is they dropped the charged from their name, but in the parlance of punk terms, when someone has the hair in Liberty spikes now, it is referenced as charged, So it's funny how that, I really love that. I just love these weird little cultural, tiny little pills that kind of get dropped from these kind of things.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's perfect starter pack, Daniel.
Yeah. And GBH, obviously, leather jackets with band logos being painted onto them, etc. They were really big with that, and also those Liberty spikes. What's interesting when you think of 77 and you think of all these spiky hairs, there's not that much going on really until this, which is when all those people were becoming really, really what we would term as looking punk now, and being on the King's Road and posing with tourists for money. It was the original spanging, is that they were out there posing with tourists who were coming to the UK. Like, look, this is your Sex Pistol, and we're your very own Sex Pistols. We'll pose for pictures with you. And it's in this era that look like just went really synthesized itself as being punk, and GBH were the real leaders of that. And, so the LP is City Baby Attacked by Rats, and it's such a good record. It's not as good to me as the other two, but it has its it really went across to America. Like, this is the one that came to America stronger than the other two at first. Obviously, Discharge has had a lot more, and Exploited are a very well referenced punk band to street punks of this era. But GBH was the band that came over a few times, and this helped that look come across the Atlantic strongly as well.
Can I interject something real, like, fun fact style?
Yeah, of course.
So, didn't get paid for it and is mad about it to this day, but the Exploited, like the classic skull with the Mohican, that's Pusshead. People don't relate that to Pusshead, but that's a Pusshead illustration.
Oh, that's sick.
Holy cow, I never knew that either.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, like, for some reason he didn't get paid for it and he's very mad about it, but it's kind of interesting that, like, he had that influence on UK punk too. Just throwing that in there. That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt the vibe.
No, I love
apologies for knowledge dropped.
The two songs I would pull from this to be I won't call them standouts, because you could really go with almost everything off here except for Slut. I'll go War Dogs and City Baby Attacked by Rats. But this is a great record, like, fucking awesome. And what's great about UK82 is, whereas many of the first wave punk bands, it's very London centric. We've just talked about a band from Edinburgh, and then Discharge are from Stoke-on-Trent, where Shakespeare's from. But that's up north and very working class. GBH, the same, like in the Midlands. And then the next band we're going to talk about, One Way System, is up north in Lancashire, near Manchester, a place called Fleetwood. And it's just great that it's all over all over the British Isles, really, at this point. And because bands are playing squats and small venues and helping each other out, it's following on from what Black Flag did across America. The punk ethic in the UK obviously isn't as, it's not 100% as DIY as what Black Flag were doing, but it is extremely DIY in the sense of like, well, we've taken over this abandoned house, squatting in it, and we're going to put on shows, and then we're also going to play venues as well. It's not just that it was exclusively that, but it just enabled a lot of bands to go from city to city without having a major booking agent, etc. Not saying that the Exploited still got into like the top 20 and occasionally, and these bands were still selling a decent amount of records and all that. It's not like they were playing the Che or anything. All right, so One Way System. I keep getting derailed, but it's punk in it. This record, start to finish, is so fucking good, and that's the reason I added it. I mean, I really could have selected from a vast amount of different UK 82 like stalwarts. Like, I really could have gone with Abrasive Wheels, could have gone with Broken Bones, and like I said, I could have gone off to the Anarcho and the Oi directions, but I really wanted to synthesize it with One Way System because it is very political, but it is also super. You can hear the difference between a band like this and Discharge, but you know that they're both from the same scene, but they sound very different at the same time. So I really think One Way System's a fantastic addition to a starter kit. And the songs I would choose would probably be Jerusalem and Forgotten Generation. But I am going to give a special shout out to You're Ready Now, the Proto Tsunami spelling.
Oh, you stole my joke, Daniel.
Hey, it's my starter kit.
That's true. And we should say, because when I brought that up today, on the first press, the your is not on there. But it's later presses, they add the your and put in the wrong your. Shout out Tsunami.
Yeah. And that song is very, very catchy and almost like a nod to the 77 before, while the rest of the stuff is very Blitzkrieg UK 82 style. So that's my number 4. And then for the 5th LP, I'm going to go The Partisans, self-titled. And the reason I'm choosing The Partisans is because it is that little bridge to the Oi scene. It is very much UK 82 punk, but it is that bridge to what would be known as Oi, which is a lot more of the really, really working class themes that weren't as, I won't say they weren't as intellectual, but they were a lot more about being on the street, like being someone unemployed on the streets, like hanging out, doing all these things, being fucked with by the cops, etc. And they, well, interestingly, they were featured on Gary Bushell's Oi compilations, Carry On Oi. I really, really, really love this band for a long time, but there wasn't really much to know about them although, you know, they seem to have been one of those bands that's come back all the time, like for those like Holidays in the Sun things, like maybe got one original member. But this LP from start to finish, the reason I'm including it in with the UK82 starter pack is because this is going to give the listener just a little bit more melody than the other selections, just a little bit more catchiness, but it still has that same speed and attack that UK82 has. It's a really fucking sick genre, and I love how it has been reinterpreted by hardcore in the recent years, and it's something that has been a staple in my record collection since I got into punk and have been buying punk records. So I hope, you know, the listener, if you've got no familiarity, if you're not familiar with it, maybe take a stab on this starter kit and see what you think and let us know.
Yeah, Dan, I think this starter kit was absolutely perfect because, you know, most people are going to be familiar with that Exploited record, the GBH record, and the Discharge. And if you're not, you're stoked because now you can get into them. This is a great place to start. Those are awesome. But what I love is I never listened to the One Way System LP the whole way through. I've heard tracks and I always thought they were decent. But this record is so good, I listened to it 3 times today. So it's like, that is the perfect starter pack. It's like, you see 3 things you recognize and like, and you're like, oh yeah, I can group those things together. I actually really do find value in this subgenre. And then it's like the next thing is something that you're like, holy fuck, that's good. You know? So I think this was absolutely excellent. And man, that One Way System LP is great. Ben, what's your take on this?
I got really into that Partisan song, I Never Needed You, and actually added it to my like normal playlist, my playlist that just is always playing on Spotify. And Partisans and One Way System, they're just bands that never grabbed me before. And I kind of, I don't know why. There's no particular reason, because I did like both of them listening to them in preparation for this. As far as the big 3 go, those are absolutely the big 3. Those are bands that I got into all at the same time, pretty much. And I had a mohawk and I had a leather jacket, and I think GBH is like the fun Dayglow side of the coin, and Discharge is the serious black and white side of the coin.
Yeah.
And they both have that Motorhead beat going. And I think history has been much more kind to Discharge. Maybe because it's because they're darker and more serious, and that history is kind to things that are less fun and funny and colorful. I don't know why. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah, well, and probably because they birthed such a deeper delve into seriousness and political action, whereas GBH, birthed kids getting drunk outside the venue and flipping off the cops or whatever, Yeah,
and Discharge is definitely like political starter kit, because if you read Crass lyrics and then you read Discharge lyrics, it's like Crass is like college level politics and Discharge is like, I don't know, high school level politics. It's like there's a huge difference. Discharge is very repetitive, but that's cool because most punk is. We like that. I think it's interesting that, and I might have talked about this another time, that the US, like going into 1.5 in hardcore, pushes away from spikes and leather, and the UK kind of leans into it further. Like, we're more punk than the generation that came before us. Our hair's twice as tall and we have more spikes on our jacket. So I have no idea what accounts for that.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is that the offending of the generation that fought in World War II as the punks, that, and not even just the generation, the normies that were birthed by that generation as well, offending all of them, I feel has so much more cultural impact in the UK, whereas in America it might be a lot more dangerous. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot more space to be covered geographically in America where you can get fucking destroyed, but in England you'd equally get destroyed, but it was more like it was picked up upon by every major news source always, you know.
Well, punk was more popular in the UK than it was in the US, for sure. No question. And I'm wondering, and I tried to figure this out when I was doing my article about other genres that were retroactively named. At what point was UK 82 used to describe a genre of music? I mean, I understand it's an exploited song that came out in 1982, but when did people start referring to all this stuff as UK 82? I couldn't find an answer to that. Do you know?
I don't either.
Okay.
It's always somewhat been known as that to me, but I bet you the UK DK documentary by Cherry Red also has an element in like branding it that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I've been meaning to watch that. I don't know why I haven't gotten around to watching that all these years.
I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I should watch that because that's something I've been aware of for since I was a teenager. And then my friend Matt Deal, who's from Chicago, and he was in this band Nadsat Rebel, who was simultaneously a UK 82 and a straight edge band.
Love it.
In 1982, he said this to me the other day. He didn't know that we were going to do this segment at all, but he said UK 82 was the hair metal of punk, but it was my hair metal. Damn it.
Yeah. I mean, there is an element of what people might say is cosplay looking back on it, because there is so much production in people dressing that way and getting out gelatin and charging your hair and all of that. But you were literally putting your fucking neck out there by doing that in the society that it was at the time. It's not as, how Mike Ness always goes on at the to the young punks that are all dressed up, and he's like, in my day you would have, but it's true. At this time it was a extreme statement of I am othering myself from society on a massive scale. I mean, for some people it was fashion, but for the most part there were consequences of doing it. And that's why like it may be referred to retroactively as kind of hair metal and like really dressing up and going wild with it, but it was also especially on the British Isles, it was especially a statement.
Anthony, what's your take on this?
I think it's a perfect playlist. I couldn't add anything to it. What I will say is I do think UK 82 is kind of an analog for what happened in the United States, at the same time, as a rebellion of a reaction, sorry, not a rebellion, but a reaction to what came before. Whereas I think UK 82 is like a little more tuneful. US is a little more like guttural. I'm going to reuse that like lame term. The only thing I'd add to that is that there's some stuff like to get on more like the crass spectrum. And these are just things that like filtered to me. Like, I don't think they're definitive. They're just like what I found or whatever, like Flux of Pink Indians, Tube Disasters, specifically, that shit blew my mind. And, I believe that record came out in 1982. New Smell, like that, or 81, around there. That record's fucking insane. Like that kind of like crass punk, black and white punk. Just the it's almost like it's so hard, but it's so sing along, and like that's great. And then the other one that I would just add, and I don't think it's not a starter kit, but a super interesting band that like put out 2 7-inches that year is Amoebics, in that they kind of had their own thing like that. They put out that 7-inch Winter that year, which like spawned Winter the Doom Band, which spawned another genre. I love Killing Jokes, one of my favorite bands ever. I know Amoebics was super influenced by them. And I think that is they're, I guess I'm the outsider guy, right? Like I got to put that into whatever, right? But
well, Ben, you've described before bands that you kind of consider on an island, and I think Amoebics is kind of that band.
Well, they're kind of the granddaddies of crust.
Yeah.
So they kind of spearhead, the next thing, which people now call crust, right?
Crust would be Amoebics and Discharge having a baby kind
of mashup.
Yeah, I almost don't want to say they're crust, because they have like keyboards and like they're a very ethereal band. Like what they're doing is like you could almost draw like a line from Amoebics to ISIS. Like they're not that far apart, even though they're apart by like 3 decades almost.
Yeah.
It's like keyboard punk, dark, like they're almost an anomaly. They're almost like the void of their genre or something. But I don't know. I just think that whole era is like, it's the UK reacting to punk in the same way that the US was reacting to punk.
And if we talk about retroactively giving things a title, basically this being referred to as UK hardcore originally is retroactive. Classifying it as that is paying attention to the fact that there was a thing called hardcore going on in America and saying, oh, well, this is kind of the UK version of it, because it wasn't regarded as that, just as much as it wasn't regarded as UK 82 at the time, I do have a fun fact for everyone though. We love a fun fact. A secondary member of the band The Partisans is Dave Parsons, who was the brother of the original bass player Mark Parsons, and he went on to be in Transvision Vamp, and then also achieved multi-platinum status in Bush.
Wow, that's funny.
How about that?
I texted my friend Mike Dunn, who knows fucking everything about punk and hardcore up to sometime in the 90s. And he helped me immensely on putting together that 1.5 record list. And I asked him.
Ben said 1.5. Everyone take a shot.
Yeah, that's it. But I asked Mike Dunn, give me your top 5 UK 82 records, and I'm going to read this right now because it's very quick. He said GBH, City Baby, Attacked by Rats. So we got that in common.
One for Daniel. Point to Daniel.
Abrasive Wheels, When the Punks Go Marching In. Daniel almost picked that.
Yeah.
Half a point to Daniel.
Skeptics, So the Youth.
Ooh, that's a bit more of a deeper cut though, but it's a good choice.
Verukers, Bloodsuckers.
Yeah.
Right there. Yep.
And Exploited Troops of Tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, wait, I do have one more thing to add to this, which is like super interesting to me, is that if you're a kid getting into, I don't know whatever, we'll pick a kid in 1990, right? You couldn't see, if you were an American hardcore kid, you're not seeing like most of the bands, right? Like a couple, right? Agnostic Front, Sick of It All, whatever.
Yeah.
You can probably see every UK 82 punk band at a festival when those are happening this summer. Like most of them still exist, which is kind of like I've seen those flyers of like all black and white of like Vice Squad. They all kind of exist, which is kind of amazing. Like you can experience it, right?
It's funny after you said a kid in the early 90s getting into hardcore, you could only see AF but if you lived in Corona, you could see all of the bands I've just mentioned come through the showcase.
But I think that's a cool point because, bands that end up having such a longevity and end up having scab lineups, like Daniel, you were talking about the Partisans might just have the same roadie. You know what I mean? Like maybe no one's original.
Real,
There is a merit to like having the songs still out in the ether, because it does make the songs timeless. So it's like you love the records, you love to go and hang out with your friends and go to a big show. It's pretty cool to hear the songs. Like it forces the songs to live on.
I believe like I saw GBH and Stiff Little Fingers in '93. And like when I just heard Generals, I didn't care who the fuck was playing it. I want to hear that song, like
for sure. What I was going to say, which is an interesting point to that, is hardcore kids have the chip on the shoulder where they're like, this is fucking cheap. This is a cash grab, blah, blah, blah. Whereas like lots of the, punk kids, especially charged hair, leather jackets, Sunset Strip, whatever, they're like, I just want to fucking see these legends and I don't give a shit. And if they're playing the songs good, great. It's like.
Right. Because you're hanging out with your friends, you're drinking some beers, you're listening to loud music. It rules.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Daniel, I think you did a great job on this, not only on this, but in your carve outs, because I really am looking forward to your Politico starter pack and then also your Oi starter pack. I think it's going to be great. And let's wrap that up.